So today we're in Hebron at Juliano's Pools, our sister store of Mr. Pool and Spa out of West Springfield. And we're going to be going over how to open, close, and do just normal maintenance on an above ground pool. So for doing your above ground cleaning, you'll need these items here. First, you take your vac head, put it onto your pole just like this, so it clicks into place. Once you have that on, you can take your vacuum hose, and you'll take the end that has the note on there that says this side goes on vacuum, and the one that swivels like so. Put that right onto the vacuum head, nice and snug. And the way I do it is I take my whole vac hose and put it right into the pool. And you just want to get all the air out of your hose by submerging it into the water. Once you have it full, you'll actually see water coming out the other end. That's how you know there's no more air left. And you can take your vacuum skim plate, put it onto there. And depending on your pool, you might have to put this hose through here first and connect it inside the skimmer. And then that'll start the suction on your vacuum. And go ahead and just start vacuuming the pool. If there's a lot of leaves in your pool and a lot of debris, you might have to come over here and take your skim plate off every now and then. Pop it right off like so. Pull your basket out. If there's any leaves in there, just kind of tap them out. And then you can put your basket back in. Get your setup going again. You can continue vacuuming your pool. So once you're done cleaning your pool, you can take all this apart, pull this off, put that back where it is, and then just let your hose go. You always want to make sure that you detach it from here before pulling the actual vacuum out of the pool. That way it doesn't suck any water into your pump and filter. Right here we have a chlorinator, a floating chlorinator. We use this to add chlorine to the pool and keep it clean. With this, on the bottom here, you can turn this little dial, and it kind of just adjusts how much chlorine goes in the water, how much water is allowed in, and how much chlorine is allowed out. Just by twisting like that. That's closed, that's open, that's somewhere in between. And then to fill it up, you just take these tabs right out of the plastic here, drop them right in the chlorinator. Put this on. There's some tabs right there. You just line it up and twist to lock. Just like that, and then you can put the whole thing right into the pool. And that will constantly be adding chlorine to your pool as it goes around in a circle, and it's constantly dissolving those tabs inside there. All there is to it is basically just come out here, test your water for chlorine, make sure that there's a steady residual of chlorine in the pool. And as those tabs start to dissolve, you can just take out the old ones, put in new ones, or leave in the old ones depending on how small they get. You just don't want them to get too small and fall out of the chlorinator, because it could it could bleach your liner. If particles or fragments of the chlorine tab fall out and sit on your liner for too long, it could bleach your liner. So just keep that in mind. Don't let them break into small pieces and fall onto the liner. So this here is just liquid chlorine shock. And basically it's just bleach, and you want to pour about a gallon in there every week just to kill any bacteria, algae that might be growing in the water. It'll keep it nice and clear. One tip with this, after adding shock to your pool, you're supposed to wait 3 to 5 hours before swimming again. But after that, you're all set to go in. And anytime you add chemicals to your pool, you want to make sure that the pump and filter is running. That way it can dissolve into the water evenly, and it doesn't just sit there in one spot. For testing chemicals, we recommend doing this every week. Just go out there, take a test strip out of the bottle, dip it into the pool about elbow deep for a few seconds, wave it back and forth, and you can pull it up and match it to the colors on the back of your bottle. And on the bottle it has all the ideal ranges, 7.2 to 7.8 for pH, and it says OK right there, and you can just match up the colors to the bottle. So this here is the Hayward Extreme cartridge filter. This is the most common filter that we put on above ground pools. They're pretty straightforward. Every month or so you're going to want to take them apart and clean out the grid that's inside. And to do that, you'll have to take off the drain plug right here. This is just a demo, so there's no water involved. You'll just take off this drain plug, let all the water pour out, and once it does, you can take the filter apart. You'll just be splitting that in half by using this band right here. And that whole piece comes right off. If you look underneath here, there's two levers. When you go to take this off, you press down on those two, and that'll allow you to twist that band. Then the whole thing just comes right off. You can put it down on the ground, and this is the filter inside. You pull this whole thing out, and then just with a garden hose, you can spray it down and get all the pine needles or whatever debris might be inside there. Just spray all that off, then put it all back together the way you took it apart. Simply sit it back down on there, let it sit there snug. Then you can take your lid, put that back on. And just twist. And you'll go until you hear like a click. Right there. And then it's snug. Won't turn anymore, won't leak. And then once you do that, you can put your drain plug back in, which is now over here. And just with a screwdriver, give it a little quarter twist, just to ensure that it's tight and won't leak. So the first step in closing your pool is simply come over to the pump and filter and hit the power. Turn the pump off so that it's no longer running. And then you can come over here and put your aqua door on. This just sits over the front of the skimmer, and it'll sit on there like that, preventing any water from pouring out of the pool. You can start disconnecting all your equipment, and to start you'll need a big pair of channel locks. You'll disconnect it right here, simply just by twisting to the left, and that will disconnect that union there, and there you go. That'll prevent, that aqua door is preventing all the water from spilling out of the pool. You want to take the eyeball out of your return fitting, and that just simply twists on and off, like so. And sometimes this will happen where it doesn't come off all in one piece. So you may need one of these tools, and it's just a key for getting that second piece of the return out. You'll take it, you'll slide it into the existing piece in the wall. There's two notches in there, and you simply just twist it out, and that'll get that extra piece of the fitting out of the wall. This is the piece that may get stuck inside the wall, and to get that out, you just take this tool right here, put it inside those grooves, and just twist it. And once you have that out, you can put these two pieces back together, like so. You can put your screw plug back where that one was, and that'll prevent any more water from leaving the pool. And you can take a screwdriver or even this tool to protect the liner. This won't cut the liner. You can take this and just give it a quarter twist, and that'll make a nice tight seal. And then once you have both your skimmer door and your return plugged up so no more water can pour out, you can go ahead and disconnect all your equipment down here, and that'll prevent any more water from leaving the pool. So those are both disconnected, and those two, the plug on the return side is keeping the water in the pool, and the aqua door is keeping the water from leaving the skimmer. So the next step would be to disconnect all this plumbing. This piece would come off right here. That disconnects from there. This disconnects from here. And that will allow you to separate your pump from the filter. This whole piece will be able to come off of this pad, be stored separately from this filter here. And then you'll have this union over on this side. This is the water returning back to the pool. You'll disconnect this one too, just by twisting them all to the left. If you look really closely on these unions, you'll see where there's little arrows that say open, and you just follow those arrows. You turn them in the direction that that arrow is pointing, and that will loosen the union. So on most above ground pools, they don't use hard pipe like this one here and this one here. They're going to be connected by a black hose like so. And basically you'll have this part that sits on the outside of the wall. It'll sit up against the wall like so. This threads into there and it just connects to your filter. This is your return line, comes off of here and connects it onto there with a different sort of fitting on a different sort of pool. And to disconnect that for closing, you'll have this piece up against the wall here, and just with your nut driver, which is 5/16, you'll be able to put it right over that nut and loosen up this hose clamp. Once it's loose, you'll see how you can simply just pull it away. You'll have to do that for this one up against the filter here, and there will be another one coming off the bottom here that you'll disconnect it from, and then there will also be one on your pump that you'll disconnect it from. So once you have everything kind of disconnected, you'll have this piece that stays on the wall right here. This stays here all winter. You'll be able to disconnect this piece and bring this whole pipe inside. You'll be able to bring this whole pipe inside, store it in a shed, nice dry place. You'll be able to disconnect this pump from the filter, bring that inside. Then the filter itself can also come off the pad and go inside. And as you're storing it, you just want to make sure to drain all the water out. And as I showed you before, there's a drain plug on the filter right here. And then there's also drain plugs on your pump. You have one in the front. You want to make sure when you're closing your pool that you take this drain plug out, and also the one on the filter. And as I said before, this all comes apart in pieces so that you can store it easily and you don't have to carry it all over at once. So once you have everything disconnected and you have it all stored away in your shed, you can start getting your cover ready for installation on the pool. And simply you'll need a steel cable, your cover, and you need to thread the cable through all the little rings on your cover. And it's best to go under than over. So always go over the short side and under the long side. So most of the red cable is always going to be hidden by the tarp. You go under, then over. And you just do this all the way around the cover. So once you're done, you'll go all the way around your cover. You'll be back at the beginning and you'll have your two ends. These two ends are going to end up going through your clamp. One little tip that I like to do is just take my two ends and tie a knot right here, kind of loose. That way they don't just separate on me, they stay together. This is our air pillow. You want to make sure that you put this in the center of your pool underneath your tarp cover, because this will displace all the water over the winter. It'll keep it off around the rim rather than all pooling up in the center and dragging your tarp into the pool. And the way I do this is I use a vacuum right here. You can use a shop vac, a mattress blower, any sort of thing that will fill it up. Just grab your tab right there, put that on there, and fire it up. Once you have it filled up, you put your cap on. You're going to want to tie a piece of string off to opposite corners. That way you can use this to keep it in the center of the pool once we put the cover on. And I typically just tie it off to anything that you can really find on the pool. You can even hang it from like a jug of water over the side. Basically, you just want that air pillow to sit in the center of the pool, and these strings keep it in place. And if that air pillow moves around, no big deal. You can just grab a pole and push it back to center. And you just want to go around the whole pool, make sure everything's even. Nothing's hanging over more on one side than the other. Once you have your air pillow situated, the cover is even all the way around, you can grab your clamp and the end of the rope, untie the knot that we made, and you'll line up your clip so that that hole is lined up with the two plastic pieces on either side. And you'll take one end of your cable, thread it through one way, through all three holes. Then you'll take the other end of the cable and put it through the opposite way. Same thing through all three holes. Once you have it through, you can pull out all your extra slack. Once you have it hand tight, you can start cranking it down. As you spin this, it'll tighten up that cable all the way around the pool, causing it to be nice and even and tight so that the wind can't get under there and blow it up. It's very important that you keep the water off of your tarp cover over the winter, and to do so you use a little sub pump like so, and it just sits right on top of the cover, and as water pools up in this area, it'll suck the water out and bring it out using the garden hose that you attach right here. Any snow or rain that we get and it melts, it's gonna stay on top of the tarp. So it's your responsibility over the winter to keep that water to a minimum, because if we get too much water on the cover, it'll actually start to drag this tarp over and it could fall into your pool. Also, if you get too much water, it could cause water displacement. So if there's 2 feet of water on top of your tarp, that means it pushed 2 feet of water out of your pool through either up over the edge or through the return or skimmer. So it's very important to get a pump and make sure that you keep the tarp somewhat dry. Just don't let a whole bunch of water pool up on top of there. You're ready to open the pool. It's basically just doing everything that we did at closing, just the opposite. Move that lever out of the way, and this whole thing will be able to spin out. And you can pull your cover off. You'll have everything stored away in your shed, and you'll have to bring it all back out. You put your pad down where you want it, then you put your filter on top, put the pump next to it, and I always start by connecting this union first. So we have it disconnected, and for opening, you'll have to reconnect it simply by tightening it. We recommend just going hand tight. If that's not good enough, if you fire it up and it leaks a little bit, it is okay to grab a pair of pliers and just give it like a quarter twist and snug it up. And then you'll also have to reconnect your pump hose to make sure that's nice and tight. You'll reconnect it to the bottom of your skimmer. And as I said, it'll be different on a lot of pools because you'll be using hoses rather than hard pipe. You would have a fitting like this coming off the bottom of your skimmer. You'd simply put that on there. Have your hose clamp nearby. Put your hose clamp on there, put the hose over it, the clamp on there, and then just tighten it down. So once you have it on there, you take your nut driver, tighten it down. Once you have that one tight, you can do the same thing over by your pump. Just like that. Make sure it's nice and tight. And that's how you set up the intake line. And then same thing with your return side. You want to reconnect your return side. And if you're using hoses, it'll be the same over here. You'll have your barb fitting coming off the bottom of your filter. You'll put your hose back onto that barb fitting, put the clamp over it, tighten it down, make sure there's no leaks, and it'll be the same up against the pool. The barb fitting coming off of the return, put your hose on it, snug it down with the nut driver. The last thing you'll do is open up your ball valves so that water can move freely. Now everything's back together, ready to go, opened up. The last step I always do is unplug my skimmer and my jet. Because over the winter we put that screw plug in there to keep the water from pouring out. So this simply just peels off from one corner, peel the whole plate off. That allows water to get back into that skimmer. For the screw plug on the return, you grab your tool and just twist it to the left, and that'll loosen that up. You can pull that right out of the wall. And you can also put in your return eyeball that we took out for closing. That just threads in there. And we recommend having it pointing kind of towards one direction, towards the wall. That way your pool can move in a circle and it keeps it clean and keeps it rotating, and all the debris and whatnot will pile up in the center, making it easier to clean up. You have all your fittings tightened up, everything's back together. You put all your drain plugs in. You got your drain plug in your pump that you want to make sure is tight. You have that back together. You have your ground wire. Put this back on, tighten that down. Make sure all these fittings are nice and tight. You have your filter drain plug back in. That's nice and tight. And once you have everything opened up, ready to go, you can turn your pump back on. And then the last step is just to bleed the air from your filter. In case you brought any air in, well, it will be full of air since we drained it all for the winter. Open up the air valve, release all the air. Once water starts coming out, you can close it back up.